What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest stars weren't just playing gangsters on screen, but were actually rubbing shoulders with real mobsters behind the scenes? The glittering facade of Golden Age Hollywood hid a darker truth, where organized crime families had their fingers deep in the movie business, controlling careers, financing films, and even determining which stars would rise to fame. Number 15. Frank Sinatra. Old Blue Eyes wasn't just singing about New York, he was practically living in the pocket of its most dangerous residents. Frank Sinatra's connections to organized crime weren't just whispered rumors in smoky nightclubs, they were FBI-documented relationships that spanned decades. The Bureau kept a massive file on Sinatra, tracking his movements and associations with mob bosses like Sam Giancana of Chicago and Johnny Rosselli, the so-called Godfather of Las Vegas. Sinatra's relationship with Jankana was so tight that the mobster allegedly tried to convince Marilyn Monroe not to go public about her affairs with the Kennedy brothers during her final days at Cal Neva Lodge. The crooner's Vegas performances weren't just entertainment, they were business meetings disguised as shows. When Sinatra performed at mob-owned venues, it wasn't coincidence, it was calculated cooperation. The most chilling detail: when investigators tried to pin criminal activities on Sinatra, they consistently came up empty-handed, not because he was innocent, but because he was protected. The FBI noted that Sinatra often acted as a messenger between crime families, using his celebrity status as the perfect cover. His denials of mob connections became legendary, with Sinatra claiming he couldn't avoid these men because they owned the clubs where he performed. Yet phone records and surveillance photos told a different story, one of a man who didn't just tolerate organized crime, but actively participated in their social circles. Number 14. George Raft. Before George Raft was flipping coins on screen in Scarface, he was running with real gangsters in Hell's Kitchen. This wasn't method acting, this was his actual childhood. Raft grew up alongside future mob legends Bugsy Seagull and Oni Madden, learning the streets before he ever saw a movie camera. His authentic portrayal of criminals came from lived experience, not acting classes. Hollywood studios loved Raft's natural tough guy persona, but they had no idea how real it actually was. When Raft brought his gangster mannerisms to the silver screen, actual mobsters started copying his style, creating a bizarre feedback loop where life imitated art, imitating life. His coin-flipping gesture became so iconic that real criminals adopted it as their own signature move. The shocking truth about Raft's career is that he used his mob connections to protect fellow actors. When James Cagney and Gary Cooper found themselves on the wrong side of organized crime, Raft allegedly intervened, using his street credibility to prevent planned assassinations. The British government was so concerned about his criminal associations that they banned him from entering the United Kingdom, making him one of the few Hollywood stars to be considered a security threat by foreign governments. Raft's autobiography conveniently omitted these details, but FBI surveillance files paint a picture of an actor who never really left his criminal past behind. Number 13. Lana Turner. Lana Turner's glamorous image as the sweater girl masked a terrifying reality involving one of the most dangerous mobsters in Hollywood. Her relationship with Johnny Stompanato, a violent enforcer for mob boss Mickey Cohen, nearly cost her everything, including her life. Stompanato wasn't just any boyfriend. He was a man who threatened to carve up Turner's face with a razor if she tried to leave him. The abuse escalated to the point where Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, felt compelled to protect her mother. On April 4, 1958, during a particularly violent confrontation, Crane grabbed a kitchen knife and fatally stabbed Stompanato. The incident became front-page news across America, with Turner taking the witness stand in tears to describe the terror her family endured. What makes this case extraordinary is the shadow it cast over Turner's entire career. Stompanato had warned Turner that if anything happened to him, Mickey Cohen's organization would hold her responsible. The threat of mob retaliation hung over the family, even after Stompanato's death was ruled justifiable homicide. Turner's emotional testimony, which some critics claimed was overly theatrical, may have actually been genuine fear of organized crime reprisal. The case revealed how deeply the underworld had penetrated Hollywood's elite circles, turning a love affair into a life-threatening situation that required police protection and permanent security measures for one of the industry's biggest stars. Number 12. James Caan. Playing Sonny Corleone in The Godfather wasn't just another role for James Caan. It was practically a family reunion. Caan's friendship with Andy "Mush" Russo, the alleged street boss of the Colombo crime family, spanned over 3 decades and went far beyond professional networking. Russo served as godfather to Caan's son, Scott, making their relationship literally familial. According to FBI informant Sammy "the Bull" Gravano, Caan held the official title of associate within the Colombo family, a position typically reserved for non-Italians who work closely with organized crime. This wasn't Hollywood gossip. This was testimony from one of the most credible sources in mob history. Gravano claimed that Caan even sought permission from crime boss Joe Colombo before accepting his iconic role in The Godfather. The most shocking revelation came when reports surfaced that Caan had allegedly hired a mob-affiliated individual to eliminate Joe Pesci over an $88,000 debt. While this plot never materialized, it demonstrated how comfortable Caan was using organized crime connections to solve personal problems. When Russo faced legal troubles in 2011, Caan publicly defended his friend and offered to post bail, showing unwavering loyalty despite the criminal charges. The Guardian reported that Caan leveraged his mob connections to intimidate producers and secure film roles, transforming his criminal associations into career advantages that other actors could never access. Number 11. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe's mysterious death becomes even more sinister when you consider her connections to Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana and the Kennedy brothers. According to several sources, Monroe spent her final night alive at Frank Sinatra's Cal Neva Lodge with Giancana, where the mobster allegedly tried to convince her not to reveal details about her affairs with President John F. Kennedy and Attorney General Robert Kennedy. The timing of Monroe's death, just 1 day after this meeting, has fueled decades of speculation about organized crime involvement in her demise. Giancana's interest in Monroe wasn't romantic, it was strategic. The mob boss reportedly saw her relationships with the Kennedys as valuable leverage against the most powerful political family in America. Phone records and surveillance reports suggest Monroe's Beverly Hills home may have been wiretapped, potentially capturing recordings of her intimate conversations with both Kennedy brothers. Actor Gianni Russo, who had his own mob connections through Frank Costello, claimed that Monroe was murdered by organized crime figures who feared she would expose information that could damage both the Kennedy administration and mob operations. The theory suggests that Monroe had become a liability to powerful interests on both sides of the law. While her death was officially ruled a probable overdose, the circumstances surrounding her final hours, including the presence of mob figures and the mysterious disappearance of evidence from her home, continue to raise questions about whether America's most famous actress was silenced by the very criminals she had unknowingly become entangled with through her high-profile romances. Number 10. Johnny Rosselli. Johnny Handsome Johnny. Rosselli was the ultimate bridge between organized crime and Hollywood glamour, a man who rose through the ranks with Al Capone before becoming the unofficial godfather of Las Vegas entertainment. His mission was simple but revolutionary: infiltrate Hollywood and make the mob an integral part of the entertainment industry. Rosselli didn't just know celebrities, he controlled access to them, determining which stars would thrive and which would be destroyed. Rosselli's influence extended far beyond casual friendships with stars like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. He was instrumental in financing films, arranging distribution deals, and even determining casting decisions for major productions. His power came from the mob's control over entertainment venues, unions, and financing networks that made Hollywood function. When producers needed funding or distribution, they often found themselves negotiating with Rosselli's organization. The most fascinating aspect of Rosselli's Hollywood career was his ability to operate in plain sight while maintaining complete criminal immunity. He attended premieres, hosted parties for A-list celebrities, and conducted business meetings at the most exclusive restaurants in Beverly Hills. Law enforcement knew exactly who he was and what he represented, but his celebrity connections made him virtually untouchable. When Rosselli was finally called to testify before Congress about CIA assassination plots against Fidel Castro, His Hollywood friends distanced themselves immediately. The man who had once been the most sought-after host in Tinseltown died alone, his dismembered body found floating in a steel drum off the Florida coast in 1976, a brutal reminder that even in Hollywood, the mob's final act is always violence. Number 9. Bugsy Seagull. Benjamin Bugsy. Seagull wasn't just another Hollywood-obsessed criminal. He was the architect of modern Las Vegas and the most charismatic killer ever to walk a red carpet. His dream of transforming a desert town into the world's entertainment capital brought him into direct contact with Hollywood's elite, creating relationships that forever changed both organized crime and the movie industry. Seagull's charm offensive in Hollywood was legendary. He dated actresses, financed films, and hosted elaborate parties at his Beverly Hills mansion that attracted stars like Clark Gable, Cary Grant, and Gary Cooper. These weren't casual social gatherings, they were strategic networking events designed to give organized crime a foothold in the entertainment industry. Seagull understood that celebrity endorsement could legitimize even the most illegal enterprises. The construction of the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas represented Seagull's greatest gamble, both financially and personally. He convinced mob investors to sink millions into his desert vision by promising them access to Hollywood's biggest stars. When cost overruns reached dangerous levels and the hotel's opening night flopped, Seagull's Hollywood connections couldn't save him from mob justice. His assassination in 1947 sent shockwaves through both criminal and entertainment circles, proving that even the most charming and connected mobsters weren't immune to organizational discipline. The stars who had once flocked to his parties notably avoided his funeral, demonstrating how quickly Hollywood could distance itself from scandal. Seagull's legacy lives on in every neon light on the Las Vegas Strip, a monument to what happens when organized crime dreams big enough to reshape entire industries. Number 8. Mickey Cohen. Mickey Cohen ruled Los Angeles organized crime with an iron fist wrapped in a custom-tailored glove, and his influence over Hollywood was both subtle and absolute. Unlike East Coast mobsters who relied on intimidation, Cohen understood that in Los Angeles, image was everything. He cultivated relationships with columnists, photographers, and studio executives, making himself an indispensable part of the entertainment industry's social fabric. Cohen's power came from his control over unions, gambling operations, and protection rackets that directly affected film production. When studios needed labor peace or wanted to keep unflattering stories out of newspapers, they dealt with Mickey Cohen. His organization provided everything from muscle for difficult negotiations to discreet services for stars who found themselves in compromising situations. The most remarkable aspect of Cohen's Hollywood career was his ability to operate as both criminal and celebrity simultaneously. He held court at the most exclusive restaurants on the Sunset Strip, wearing $5,000 suits and diamond jewelry that made him more glamorous than many movie stars. Gossip columnists wrote about his fashion choices and party invitations as if he were a legitimate entertainment figure rather than one of America's most dangerous criminals. When rival Jack Dragna tried to eliminate Cohen through a series of assassination attempts, Hollywood held its breath, knowing that Cohen's death would create a power vacuum that could destabilize the entire entertainment industry. Cohen survived multiple murder attempts, including a bombing that destroyed his home, proving that in Los Angeles, survival often depended more on media savvy than criminal cunning. His eventual imprisonment marked the end of an era when organized crime and Hollywood glamour were virtually indistinguishable. Number 7. Sam Jankana. Sam Momo. Jankana was the Chicago mob boss who turned organized crime into a multinational entertainment empire, with tentacles reaching from the White House to Hollywood sound stages. His relationship with Frank Sinatra opened doors that previous criminals could never have imagined, giving him access to presidents, movie stars, and entertainment industry power brokers who treated him like royalty rather than a killer. Giancana's most audacious scheme involved using his Hollywood connections to influence American foreign policy. Through Sinatra, he gained access to the Kennedy administration, offering mob assistance in everything from election campaigns to CIA assassination plots against Fidel Castro. This wasn't just crime, this was organized crime, operating at the highest levels of government, with Hollywood celebrities serving as unwitting intermediaries. The scope of Giancana's entertainment industry influence was staggering. He had financial interests in recording studios, nightclubs, and film production companies across the country. When artists wanted to perform in Chicago or Las Vegas, they negotiated with Jankana's organization. His approval could make careers, while his disapproval could end them permanently. The most chilling example of his power came during Marilyn Monroe's final days, when Jankana allegedly tried to convince her to keep quiet about her Kennedy affairs, recognizing that her revelations could damage both his political connections and his criminal enterprises. When Jankana was assassinated in 1975, shortly before he was scheduled to testify before Congress about CIA connections, many in Hollywood breathed easier, knowing that one of the most dangerous men in America could no longer use their industry as a weapon against the government itself. Number 6. Meer Lansky. Meer Lansky was the brilliant mathematician who transformed organized crime from a collection of violent gangs into a sophisticated business empire, and Hollywood became one of his most profitable investments. Known as the mob's accountant, Lansky understood that legitimate entertainment businesses could serve as perfect covers for money laundering operations while generating enormous profits through legal means. Lansky's Hollywood strategy was masterful in its simplicity. Instead of crude intimidation tactics, he used financial expertise to make himself indispensable to studio executives and independent producers. His organization provided funding for films that banks wouldn't touch, arranged complex international distribution deals, and solved currency exchange problems that plagued global entertainment ventures. Many successful Hollywood productions of the 1940s and 1950s were secretly financed through Lansky's networks. The most impressive aspect of Lansky's entertainment industry involvement was his ability to remain virtually invisible while wielding enormous influence. Unlike flashy criminals like Mickey Cohen or Bugsy Seagull, Lansky operated through intermediaries and shell companies, making it almost impossible for law enforcement to prove direct connections to specific Hollywood ventures. His financial innovations, including offshore banking and complex investment structures, became standard practices for both legitimate and illegitimate entertainment businesses. When Lansky died in 1983, FBI agents estimated that his hidden assets totaled over $300 million, much of it generated through entertainment industry investments that continued to pay dividends decades after their initial mob financing. His legacy lives on in every complex financial deal that moves money through the global entertainment industry, proving that sometimes the most dangerous criminals are the ones you never see coming. Number 5. Abner "Longi" Zilman. Abner "Longi" Zilman was the New Jersey mob boss who literally bought his way into Hollywood history by financing some of the most important films of the 1930s. His relationship with Jean Harlow, whom he helped transform from unknown actress to platinum blonde icon, demonstrated how organized crime could manufacture stars using the same business principles they applied to bootlegging and numbers running. Zilman's $500,000 loan to Columbia Pictures for Harlow's contract wasn't just an investment, it was a strategic move to gain influence over film content and star development. This arrangement gave him unprecedented access to studio decision-making processes, allowing organized crime to influence which stories were told and which actors became famous. Harlow's career trajectory from bit player to major star served as a template for how criminals could create entertainment properties that generated both profits and cultural influence. The most fascinating aspect of Zilman's Hollywood involvement was his understanding that entertainment could be used as a weapon for social change. By controlling star images and film narratives, he could influence public opinion about organized crime, law enforcement, and social issues that affected his business interests. His financing helped create the gangster movie genre that romanticized criminal behavior, making outlaws seem glamorous rather than dangerous. When Zilman committed suicide in 1959 while facing federal prosecution, he left behind an entertainment industry that had been permanently altered by organized crime investment. His death marked the end of an era when mob bosses could openly finance major Hollywood productions, but his influence on how criminals are portrayed in popular culture continues to shape entertainment narratives today. Number 4. Anthony Spilotro. Anthony "Tony the Ant." Spilotro was the Chicago outfit's Las Vegas enforcer, whose brutal methods made him one of the most feared men in entertainment history. His confrontation with Tony Bennett over a romantic rivalry became legendary, demonstrating that even beloved entertainers weren't safe from mob violence when they crossed the wrong people. Spilotro's role in Las Vegas went far beyond simple muscle work. He controlled security for mob-owned casinos, determined which entertainers could perform on the Strip, and settled disputes between celebrities and criminal organizations. His approval was required for any major entertainment venture in Las Vegas, making him one of the most powerful gatekeepers in American show business. Stars who wanted to work in Vegas had to navigate Spilotro's approval process, which often involved personal meetings that resembled auditions conducted by a psychopath. The Tony Bennett incident perfectly illustrated Spilotro's methods and the terror he inspired throughout the entertainment industry. When Bennett began a relationship with Spilotro's girlfriend, the mobster's response was swift and brutal. He attacked Bennett with a phone book, knocking the singer unconscious and sending a clear message to other entertainers about the consequences of crossing organized crime. Bennett later credited this assault with forcing him to confront his addiction problems and rebuild his life, but the incident traumatized him for years. Spilotro's murder in 1986, allegedly buried alive by his own organization, marked the end of the most violent era in Las Vegas entertainment history. His death allowed performers to work without fear of sudden, brutal punishment for personal choices that angered connected criminals. Number 3. Frank Costello. Frank Costello earned his nickname, the Prime Minister of the Underworld, through sophisticated political connections that made him one of the most influential criminals in American history. His Hollywood relationships weren't just social friendships, they were business partnerships that gave organized crime unprecedented access to entertainment industry resources and cultural influence. Costello's approach to Hollywood was remarkably sophisticated compared to his contemporaries. Instead of relying on intimidation or violence, he used political connections and financial leverage to become a trusted advisor to studio executives and entertainment industry leaders. His organization provided services that ranged from labor negotiation assistance to discreet problem-solving for celebrities who found themselves in difficult situations. The scope of Costello's entertainment industry influence became clear during congressional hearings in the 1950s, when investigators discovered that his organization had financial interests in production companies, distribution networks, and exhibition chains across the country. He had essentially created a shadow entertainment empire that operated parallel to legitimate Hollywood businesses. His political connections allowed him to influence federal regulation of the entertainment industry, making him one of the few criminals who could affect policy decisions that impacted entire sectors of American business. When Costello was forced into retirement by rival criminal organizations in the late 1950s, Hollywood lost one of its most sophisticated criminal partners. His departure marked the beginning of a new era when organized crime's influence over entertainment became more fragmented and less elegant, but no less dangerous. Number 2. Lucky Luchiano. Charles. Lucky. Luchiano didn't just organize crime, he revolutionized it, and his innovations extended directly into Hollywood through a network of relationships that transformed how the entertainment industry operated. As the architect of modern organized crime structure, Luchiano understood that legitimate businesses like movie studios could provide perfect covers for illegal operations while generating enormous profits through legal means. Luchiano's Hollywood connections were established during his early career when he recognized that entertainers and criminals shared similar lifestyles and values. Both industries operated outside conventional social norms, both relied on charisma and performance to succeed, and both generated enormous amounts of cash that needed to be moved discreetly. His organization provided financial services, security, and problem-solving capabilities that made them invaluable partners for entertainment industry figures. The most remarkable aspect of Luchiano's entertainment industry involvement was his ability to maintain influence even while imprisoned and eventually deported to Italy. His organization continued to operate Hollywood interests through trusted lieutenants who understood his vision of criminal enterprises that could function as legitimate businesses. His innovations in organizational structure, territorial agreements, and profit-sharing arrangements became standard practices for both criminal organizations and entertainment industry partnerships. When Luchiano died in 1962, he left behind a template for organized crime involvement in legitimate business that continues to influence how criminal organizations approach entertainment industry investments. His legacy proves that the most dangerous criminals are often the most innovative entrepreneurs, capable of transforming entire industries through methods that blur the line between legal and illegal enterprise. Number 1. The Commission. The Commission wasn't just organized crime's ruling body, it was a shadow government that controlled significant portions of the American entertainment industry through a network of relationships, investments, and strategic partnerships that made Hollywood partially dependent on criminal organizations for basic operations. This wasn't conspiracy theory. This was documented business reality that shaped decades of American popular culture. Established by Luchiano in the 1930s, the Commission created the first systematic approach to organized crime's entertainment industry involvement. Rather than allowing individual criminals to pursue chaotic personal relationships with celebrities, the Commission established territories, protocols, and business practices that turned mob Hollywood cooperation into a regulated industry. They controlled union leadership, influenced film content, determined which stars could work in certain venues, and provided financial services that legitimate banks wouldn't offer. The Commission's most powerful tool was their ability to coordinate actions across different criminal organizations and geographic regions. When a studio needed labor peace, they could guarantee it nationwide. When a star needed protection from scandal, they could arrange media coverage in multiple cities simultaneously. When investors wanted to finance risky entertainment ventures, they could provide capital that came with built-in security and distribution networks. This level of coordination made organized crime an indispensable partner for entertainment industry leaders who understood that cooperation was more profitable than resistance. The Commission's influence extended beyond simple business arrangements into cultural impact that still resonates today. Their involvement in entertainment helped create the romanticized image of organized crime that dominates popular culture, making criminals seem glamorous rather than dangerous. They influenced which stories were told, which actors became famous, and which aspects of American life were celebrated or criticized in popular entertainment. When federal prosecution finally disrupted the Commission's operations in the 1980s, Hollywood had been permanently altered by decades of criminal partnership that shaped not just business practices, but the fundamental character of American entertainment culture. So, there you have it, the real mob connections that shaped Golden Age Hollywood into the entertainment empire we know today. These weren't just casual friendships between criminals and celebrities, they were business partnerships that fundamentally changed how movies got made, which stars became famous, and what stories got told to the American public. Which connection shocked you the most? Do you think Hollywood is better or worse without organized crime's influence? And here's the big question that might make you uncomfortable. If these criminal partnerships helped create some of the greatest entertainment in American history, were they actually worth the moral compromise? Let me know in the comments below.